will see all the important points of Union Budget 2015-16, which was presented on 28th of February 2015. And we will see all the important highlights and also the detailed summary, which is very useful for all the competitors in 2015. So if we start with the introduction and that what are the objectives and the challenges. So the objectives are obviously high growth and also to cut the fiscal deficit and to boost investment and to ensure that ordinary people benefit from all these steps. And Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said that states to be the equal partners in economic growth, and he wants to move uh, to make India a cashless society. And he said that all the social sector programs will be continued. And while presenting the budget, mentioned the three challenges in the Indian economy. First one is the poor agricultural income. Second is the decline in the manufacturing, and third is the need for the fiscal discipline. We need to maintain our fiscal deficit. The current year target is 4.1, and the term target is 3% of the GDP. Now, first of all, we can also see that how income and expenditure from budget. So, if we see the income of the government of India in the current fiscal year, that is 2014 to 15, we can see that out of 1 rupee, like if we consider all the income of government of India as 1 rupee, so 20 paisa is coming from corporation tax, that is from the corporates. So it means that 20% income is coming from corporation tax, 14% is the income tax, then third is the union excise duties, that is 10%, and then customs duty, that is 9%, and then services tax and other service tax at 9%. So major three are corporation tax, income tax, and excise duties. Now, if we see the expenditure of the government of India in the current fiscal, that is 2014-15, we can see that the major portion of our income goes to state share of taxes and duties, that is 23%. Out of 1 rupee, 23 paisa goes to state share of taxes and duties. Then 20% is interest payment because we have borrowed so much in Indian economy because of our ambitious targets and various social welfare schemes. And the third is the center plan because of various schemes of central. The center actually send money to the states for the central social schemes. And also in the 2014-15, the defense expenditure was 11%. 10% was subsidies. Now, if you see the fiscal deficit target, and like I already said that our medium term fiscal deficit target is 3%. And in current fiscal year, the target was 4.1% of the GDP, which the finance minister said is likely to achieve. Then the target for 2015-16 is 3.9% of GDP, then 3.5, and then in 2017-18, finance minister has set the target of 3% of GDP for the fiscal deficit. And he said that current account deficit is will be below 1.3% of GDP. Now, if you see the growth, because the government of India has recently changed the base year from 2004-5 to 2011-12. So if we see the GDP growth from the new base year, that is 2011-12, the GDP growth will be seen at around 8 to 8.5% year on year, because this fiscal year we are expecting a growth of around 7.5%, 4%. Now nominal economic growth will be seen between 11 to 12%. If you see the inflation front, we have achieved CPI inflation has been down to around 5 to 6% in December, and WPI was around 0%. And that is why finance minister expects consumer inflation to remain close to 5% by March, and which will open the room for more monetary policy easing, like then repo rate or reverse repo rate. All these like policy rate is repo rate will can be reduced, or also SLR can be reduced. RBI has already stated its objective of keeping inflation below 6%. Now, if you see the revenue deficit to be seen at 2.8% of GDP, non-tax revenue seen at 2.121 trillion rupees, and agricultural income are under stress. If you see the expenditure for 2015-16, total expenditure is around 17.77, out of which non-plan is 13.1 trillion rupees or 13.1 lakh crore rupees. Plan is 4.65 lakh crore. And the defense expenditure would be 2.46 lakh crore or 2.46 trillion rupees. And budget allocates 33,150 billion rupees for health sector. Now, if you see the disinvestment targets, the present target has been brought down from around 40,000 crore to 31,350 crore, and government has set the target of 41,000 rupee crore from stake sales in 2015-16, and the target total stake sale will be around 70,000 crore. And also government has set state sale target for 2016-17 at around 55,000 crore. Now, finance minister has actually proposes various market reforms. Like first one is to merge commodity regulator FMC and Securities and Exchange Board of India, that is the stock market regulator. Second one is to bring a new bankruptcy code. Third one is to that Jetli is going to move the RBI Amendment Act to 1934 this year, and also he will made a monetary policy committee which will be headed by RBI governor, and also he will be set up a public debt management agency to look into the borrowings of the government of India, and he proposes to introduce a public contract resolution of disputes bill, and also he will establish a autonomous bank board bureau to improve management of public sector banks. Now, if you see the policy reforms, black money will be the focus, and to create universal social security system for all Indians, and obviously national skill mission will be soon be launched, and the visa on arrival facility will be increased from 43 countries to 150 countries, and Manrega allocation will be to the tune of 35,000 crore. And also it raised the threshold for application of transfer pricing rule to 20 crore from current 5 crore. Now the borrowings of government of India, gross market borrowing to be seen at rupees 6 trillion, that is 6 lakh crore, and net market borrowing will be 4.56 trillion or 4.56 lakh crore. GAR will be deferred for 2 years, that is it will be implemented for from 1 April 2017, and all the retrospective tax provision will be avoided, like we have saw in the case of Vodafone tax evasion case. Then on the front of taxation, he abolished wealth tax, and because wealth tax was very less, to the tune of around 1000 crore, and he actually replaces the wealth tax with an additional 2% surcharge on super rich. And also the corporate tax of 30% will be brought down to 25% in the next 4 years. Now if you see, he has analyzed tax gains tax for real estate investment trust. Then he has extended withholding tax concession on foreign debt purchases by 2 years. He also expects to implement GST from the next year, that is from April 2016. 100% tax exemption for contribution to the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, apart from 2% of corporate social responsibility. Then service tax will be increased from 12.36% to 14%. Custom duty will be reduced, and but the basic custom duty on commercial vehicle will be doubled to 20%. Then plans to introduce direct tax regime that is internationally competitive on rates without exemption. Then also uh, he will enact tough penalties for tax evasion. Now if you see the personal income tax, actually no revision has been made in income tax brackets, but public can claim exemption up to 4.42 lakh. How this can be achieved, we will see in next slide. Health insurance premium increased from 15,000 to 25,000, and up to 30,000 for the elderly, and also 30,000 rupees if goes under the health insurance for the people age above 80, they are allowed as a medical expense. And additional deduction of 25,000 for the disabled. Then PF contribution increased from 1 lakh to 1.5 lakhs, and additional deduction of 50,000 for contribution to new pension scheme under section 80 CCD. Then transport allowance increased from 800 rupees per month to 1600 rupees per month. And by this way, we can claim up to 4.42 lakh tax rebate. You can see it. Import tax increased on iron and steel from 10 to 15% to discourage the import from China. And also the import tax on metallurgical coke increased. Then infrastructure fund, and up to 70,000 crore infrastructure investment will be in year 2015-16. Then also there is a plan to set up National Investment Infrastructure Fund. Also proposes tax-free infrastructure bonds for projects in rural rate and irrigation projects. Then second unit of Kudan nuclear power station will be commissioned soon. Also need to build additional 1 lakh kilometer of road. Then ports in public sector will be encouraged to corporatize under Companies Act. Then PPP model will be focused. Then there is very important thing, that is Atal Innovation Mission. This is to be established to draw on expertise of entrepreneurs and researchers to foster scientific innovations. Allocation of rupees 150 crore. So this Atal Innovation Mission. Also, government proposes to set up 5 ultra mega plants, power projects, each of 4,000 megawatt. Then on education fronts, new AIMS will be set up in Jammu Kashmir, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Himachal Pradesh, Bihar, and Assam. One IIT will be set up in Karnataka, and ISM Dhanbad will be upgraded to IIT. And PG Institute of Horticulture in Amritsar to be built up. Kerala will be having a University of Disability Studies. One center of film production, animation, and gaming to be come up in Arunachal Pradesh. Then again one IM for Jammu Kashmir and Andhra Pradesh will be set up. On agricultural fund, 2,000 rupees 25,000 crore for Rural Infrastructure Development Bank, 5,300 crore to support micro irrigation program. Then farmer credits are increased from 7.5 lakh crore in current fiscal year to 8.5 lakh crore in 2015-16. Then government to provide around 8,000 crore rupees capital infusion to state-run banks. Then there is also a proposal to do away with different type of foreign investment caps and replace them with the composite caps. Then also they will allow foreign investment in alternative investment funds. Public investment needed to catalyze investment. Then on the gold, actually the to discourage gold buying, government will launch gold deposit accounts and sovereign gold bond as an alternative to purchase metal gold. New scheme for depositor of gold will be introduced to earn interest and jewelers to obtain loans on their metal accounts. Then they will also develop a Indian gold coin which will carry the Ashoka Chakra on it says to reduce the demand for foreign coins and recycle the gold available in the country. Import duty was not reduced and it stays at 10%. That is why jewelers disappointed. Defense, I've already told you, it is an increase of around 10% over the last year. And focus on Make in India for quick manufacturing of defense equipment. Excise duty on cigarettes increased by 25% of cigarettes of length not exceeding 65 mm, and excise duty increased by 15% for cigarettes of other lengths, that is length beyond 65 mm. Subsidies, if you see, total major subsidy estimated to be around 2.27 lakh crore, out of which half of the subsidy will be gone for the food subsidy at around 1.25 to 4 lakh crore. Then fertilizer subsidy will be the tune of 72,000 crore, and then fuel subsidy will be around 30,000 crore. So food is greater than fertilizer, is greater than fuel subsidy. There are very important welfare schemes, and like Atal Pension Yojana. In this Atal Pension Yojana, government will contribute 50% of the premium limited to the rupees 1000 a year. Then a new scheme for physical aids and assisted living devices for people aged over 80. Then DBT will be further expanded from 1 crore to 10.3 crore. Then the upgradation of secondary school and then housing for all by 2020. Then this Mudra Bank, it is very important, and it will refinance microfinance organizations to encourage first generation SC/ST entrepreneurs. Then 6 crore toilets will be built across the country under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. GST will be implemented from the next year. Then this JAM Trinity, that is Jan Dhan Yan Yojana, A for Aadhaar and M for mobile. Because these days government is focusing on digital India and everything will be done through mobile, through apps. And this JAM Trinity will be very important to improve the quality of life and to pass benefits to common man. Renewable energy, 75 crore for electrical cars production and renewable energy targets for 2022. 1 lakh megawatt for solar, 60,000 megawatt for wind, 10,000 megawatt for biomass and 5,000 for small hydro. Then I've already told you this visa on arrival for 150 countries from current 43 countries. Then there will be development schemes for churches and convents in Old Goa, Hampi, Elephanta Caves, Forest, and all these World Heritage sites. Then this financial sector, I've already told you that FMC will be merged with SEBI. Then NBFC is registered with the RBI and having asset size of 500 crores and above to be considered as financial institution under the SARFAESI Act 2002. And permanent establishment norms to be modified to that mere presence of offshore fund managers in the country does not lead to the adverse tax consequences. So thank you guys.